climate is a very crazy climate, man.
I trust our government. I trust our government officials that they won't disrespect the Constitution like
However,
that. Right?
The behavior that we have seen from Donald Jamal Trump in these last 4 years, especially here at this last moment.
I've always considered this coronavirus similar to an STD. Okay. And the fact of how
definitely okay, that's the hot take. Okay. Good afternoon. What's going on? It is your humble host. I am Lawrence Sanders, and I would like to welcome you to Be the People, where it is a call to action. We're about information being informed, calling action to see the evolution. It's just me tonight, y'all. Sorry we late. However, my homie Wade, he's traveling. Safe travels to Wade. But yeah, you stuck with me tonight. Thank you for joining. I'm super happy that you are here. If you are riding with, if you here and you riding with me, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know you are here. If you're driving home, please keep your hands and eyes on the road, but turn me up in your speakers and your ear pods and your Bose and your Sonys and your Hardin Carmens, you bougie. But let me know you here. Tonight we have a really cool show. I want to talk about some stuff, as always, that's going on here in the media, in the world. Want to talk about it, give some information, and just kind of discuss, where we are. Because again, we want to see change, but we can't see change until we have information and knowledge. So we got to arm ourselves first with that. So again, thank you so much for being here. I know it's Tuesday and you could be doing something else. However, thank you. So I want to get straight into it. So tonight, if you have been living under a rock, Chauvin is on trial, and if you don't know who that is, I want to kind of paint a picture. I want to give some details, give some facts, so we know what's up, what's been going on. So on May 25th, George Floyd was an African-American man who was arrested for allegedly passing a counterfeit $20 bill. He was in Minneapolis. And I think the neighborhood was like Powderhorn Park or something like that. He was murdered by a cop. Not to mention he was white, by a Derek Chauvin, and I don't ever know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. But Derek Chauvin was a Minneapolis cop. He had a few misconduct, few complaints on him, and long story short, he was taken. George Floyd was taken into custody by this officer, and if I am correct, the time was, I believe it was 9 minutes and 29 seconds. This officer had Don, what up? He had his knee on George Floyd's neck. And I don't know if you are aware of how long that is, but 9 minutes and 29 seconds is a really long time to be in any awkward position. First of all, I was a part of a protest last year, golly. And a part of the protest is what they had us do is they had us lay on our stomach to find ourselves basically in the most uncomfortable position that we could tolerate. So we had options. For me, I laid on my stomach like George Floyd was, and I had my hands behind my back, and I laid there for the 9 minutes. And as we laid there on our stomachs, they played the audio of the interaction between George and Derek. And even just for me being in that position, there was no pressure, there was no one on my back, there was no one, restraining my legs. None of that was happening. It was uncomfortable. It was bad. And so here this officer, someone who is tasked to uphold the law, Um, Basically, it appears that he begins to take things into kind of his own hands. There are witnesses, there are bystanders, and shortly after, yeah, he dies. George Floyd is killed, handcuffed, laying face down in the street. He was heard crying for his mother. He was um he was heard saying he couldn't breathe. Which I don't know if you were a part of any of protests or if you were watching the news. The people were chanting, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." Um, and this is kind of hard for me to talk about it. Just being in that situation, being in that position, just kind of going through the details, just hearing everything. So he's murdered, and the world sees it, and it sends the world in a panic. It there are riots and protests worldwide. It's happening everywhere. Like they're in Asia. I believe it was like Italy, Africa. Everybody was protesting because they witnessed what happened to George Floyd. And so now finally, hey Kendrick, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining me. And so finally, um, Derek is brought into custody. I don't remember how many days it was or how long it actually took them to bring these officers into custody. And so now finally he is on trial. I believe he was released on bail October 7th, 2020. He posted bond of $1 million. His bond. Um and so they were trying to charge all three of the officers together. Judge decided no, y'all gonna go one at a time, which actually is better in some degrees in the law field. And so here we are. He's on trial. And I believe today we heard some of the eyewitness testimonies. And it's hard. Y'all just I don't know if y'all have seen any of this, if y'all heard any of this. It's really difficult. It's tough. Um it's really difficult to process, and for me it's really difficult to deal with the inconsistencies of our justice system, and I'll talk about what that means later. But for example, we talk about Genevieve Hanson. She was a Minneapolis firefighter. She is a national EMT. She's certified, and she testified actually today, this afternoon. um Mind you, she's an EMT. If we all know what EMTs are, they are tasked with saving lives. They they are people who literally go through hours of training to save people's lives, regardless to where they find, whether they're gunshot wounds, stabs, asthma attacks, poison ivy, bee stings. EMTs are the angels of the world. And the testimony that went forth is, she said, "I was concerned to see a handcuffed man who was not moving with officers with their whole body weight on his back in a crowd that was stressed out." It says, "Who appeared in court in her dress uniform, so on and so forth." Um, she immediately identified herself as an EMT, as they have to do when they come on the scene. She said she thought Floyd needed medical attention, that she may be able to help. However, um, she was not allowed to do so, because she was told by officer to not. She's heard begging on the officer's video to check Floyd's pulse. She said, "I could have given medical assistance, and that is exactly what I should have done," she said. "But the officers did not let me into the scene." She was asked by the prosecutor, "Were you frustrated?" And her response was yes. She teared up a little, tissue in her eyes, took a drink of water. She said, "I was desperate to help." Um, this is tough, y'all. If I can be honest, This is one of the first eyewitness accounts. This was a trained certified person who goes hours of training, who spends countless nights and hours studying parts of the body, human responses, distress, who saw George Floyd in a really bad place, and was willing and eager to help. Saw that she needed to intervene, but was not allowed to. Words out of her own mouth. She was even heard in some of the video saying that he needs medical assistance. Now, the other part about this, here's the caveat. They want to use the fact that George Floyd was on drugs during this, that he was high. But I think the only issue with that is this: if you've ever seen people who are high as they say he was, he wouldn't have been as responsive as he was, as cognizant as he was. I mean, we hear George, he's telling the officers, like, I can't breathe. He's telling them I can't breathe. Even more dramatically, like, he's calling for his mom. Because I feel like a part of him, feels like this is it. He's just trying to get help from somewhere. And the fact that this EMT was not allowed to help, it's very telling. It's very telling. I want to move to like another one of the witnesses today. Let me find her name, what her name was. Darnella Frazier. And this one particularly for me it struck me because she's young. She was 17 years old. And as a 17-year-old girl, she witnessed the murder of a man. But I think the worst part about it, though, is that she's struggling, like she's dealing with guilt, survivor's guilt, as we call it. And I'll just read some of the quotes that she said. Um, she said it wasn't right. He was suffering. He was in pain, she said. He cried for his mom. Fraser, she's just turned 18. Um, she could be heard crying. It seemed like it seemed like it was over for him. She said, when I look at George Floyd, I look at my dad, I look at my brothers, I look at my cousins, I look at my uncles because they're all black. She said, I look at how that could have been one of them. She said, here's the kicker part that was really tough for me hearing this. She said, she stayed up some nights apologizing to George Floyd for not doing more, not physically interacting and not saving his life. But it's not what I should have done. It's what Chauvin, should have done. She has regret, and she has to live with this for the rest of her life. Hey, Chef Shahana, what's going on? She has to live with this the rest of her life, feeling like she should have done something more. She feels like there was something more that she could have done. The fact that she felt like she had to intervene when law enforcement were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And now this haunts her. Think about that. Like for the rest of her life, she will forever have images of a cop, of an officer with his knee in the neck of a man who stated he couldn't breathe and that he was crying out for his mother. How is that for a 18-year-old girl to live the rest of her life? What does that do to the relationship and how she sees law enforcement? Because as much as we could talk about the good apples, the bad apples, blah 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 blah, she has a first-hand account of law enforcement, like up close and personal, man. Up close and personal, thinking that, oh, well, cops are not bad and they are here to save and all these other things, when her experience was not that. Matter of fact, there was a man in distress detained that she saw law enforcement take his life slowly. Um, and it hurts, y'all. It hurts to live in a place. Hey, Brittany, what's going on? Um, it hurts to be told that no, you're crazy, and that no, it's only a few cops. It's not all of them. Yeah, we know that, but the fact that the few are spoiling the perception of many, and that nobody's quick to do anything about it, though. There's no legislation being passed. They've talked about, and we can move. They've talked about the George Floyd bill. Um, Chef Shahana, thank you. They've talked about the George Floyd bill. Which basically, this is legislation that would make it, difficult for officers to use certain positions that like that George used. I do want to talk about this though, because this is a very sticky situation. Because if anybody who's lived long enough, if you especially my generation, you know about the Rodney King riots, right? I want to talk about though what could possibly be the outcome though if the jury gets this wrong. If 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 they get this wrong, if a guilty verdict is not passed for, and this again, and we try to stick to facts here, but like here's my opinion. I think a lot of us are past the point of trusting in the judicial system. Um a lot of us, especially as African Americans, we have a different relationship with the judicial system, right? We have a different perception on the judicial system. Um, yeah, you're right, Kendrick. You're right, man. And yes, Chef Shahana, and this is what I'm getting at. I feel like if they get this wrong, if Derek Chauvin, if he walks, um, I feel like Indianapolis and a lot of places will burn. I that's just I feel that. I feel like there's just too much. It's pretty black and white. And I say black and white. It's pretty obvious from eyewitnesses. There. Forget the fact. Oh, he was high on drugs. Okay, fine. But with him being high on drugs, there are other means that you, as an officer, a peacekeeper, as they call you in certain places, um, that you should take. Yo, Chef Shahana, thank you. Oh, sorry, it's Huey and yes, I am such a avid Boondocks fan. Had to put it on the wall. Um, and so I think and I believe that if they get this wrong, the justice system will have hell to pay. Because once again, we feel like we're not being heard. And a great man once said, and we know who he is, rioting is the voice of unheard people. It would seem that no, y'all still haven't figured it out. It would seem as if what we believe, what we see continues to be true. And so now, if the justice system doesn't work for us, then again, we have to take matters into our own hands. And I'm not an advocate for it. Here on Be the People, we talk about voting. Go to the polls, use your polls, use your vote. Let me tell you how well voting is working. That now they're trying to pass legislation to basically suppress certain people's votes because there's proof that it works. You want proof? Look at what they're trying to do to our vote. Because ultimately, I believe our vote spoiled their plan and what they intended to do. But just know, if Minneapolis, if they get this wrong, it is not going to be a good day. It's not. It's not. It is not going to be a good day. Honestly, if you ask me, I don't necessarily believe in the death penalty. However, yeah, um, if they were to give him that, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't believe he will. What I do say, send him to jail. Send him to jail. Let him go to prison. Let him get some of that jail cell love. Um, yeah, like send him to jail. But I just Tam, I'm with you. Thank you for joining. Hey, listen, y'all. Thank you for tuning in real quick. Lisa, Tam, thank you for joining me tonight. We just talking through some stuff, and again, I'm trying not to get all like emotional and stuff because it really bothers me. And Lisa, you're right. Our work is never done. I mean, ironically, like if you know the Boondocks theme song, Lisa, thank you. Um, he said, I will remain a soldier until the war is won. And it's not over. There's so much work that we have to do. There's so much work. There's so many things that we have to do. There are so many changes we have to make. But it starts with us informing ourselves. Case in point, our justice system is just so flawed. And here, so we have one cop that kills a black man in Minnesota. But I do want to bring up, I don't know if y'all remember this. Sean Lucas out in Wolf City, and that's out here in Texas. Last year he murdered Jonathan Price in October. And if you don't know the story, what happened was Jonathan Price was basically there to break up an altercation between other people. Yes. And, he approaches the officer. He's talking to him. Hey, basically trying to explain to him, like, no, it's not me. Like, it was somebody else. I was just here to mediate. I was trying to do, long story short, the right thing. The officer, his story is that he thought he was drunk. Long story short, well, we kind of know how this ends. Jonathan Price ends up in the body bag. Now, what we do know, though, it did not take long for him to be arrested. It did not take long, and his bail was set at $1 million. The inconsistencies, though, with our justice system is just ridiculous. People continue to die at the hands of a careless police force. And although there are a few bad apples, yes, however, as a whole, it is tainting the reputation and the perception of the police. Right now in the state of Texas, they are working on legislation. There were 100 people who died. I think it was a little over 100 people who died because of the power grid situation. Over 100. And the state of Texas right now is already turning up legislation to make sure that hasn't happened again. But you're telling me we have been dealing with police brutality and injustice for some time, and we still can't figure this thing out. I don't understand. I do not understand how 100 people can die. And as a matter of weeks, that was the second week of February, they are already putting things on the floor to affect change. And then we have people like Sean Lucas, who kills a cop and then complains about, oh, my bill is too high. I can't afford that. Why should, well, you killed a man. You killed a man. But I think that just goes back to show the improper balance of our system. It's unfair. And again, I try to be, I try not to be impartial, but it seems like it happens to us. It's happening. It's always happened to us. And not to say that it doesn't happen to white people or other. Well, last week we welcomed the Asians to the struggle. because now they're feeling the brunt of it. But it always seems like we get the short end of the stick. It always seems it is us who are expected to forgive and trust the system, but it seems like we are the one that continues to get screwed. And so, Sean Lucas, I hope you are indicted. I hope you are prosecuted to the full extent of the law with liberty and justice for all. And you are all. So don't complain. Just come up with the cash. And if you don't have it, sit there until you are giving your due trial as our Constitution ensures you. So, real quick before we go, if you have also been under a rock, our homie Lil Nas X, he out here wilding, y'all. He is out here doing the absolute most, but Nike is not having it. Nike is not having it. So if you don't know, Nike is suing the Brooklyn Art Collective MSCHF over a pair of 1,018 $1,018 trainers. They're the 97 Air Max that have an inverted cross, a pentagram, and words like Luke 10 and 18. And if you read it, I need you to go look that up because that was just whoa. They are supposed to release 666 pairs in a collaboration with Lil Nas X, his new song, "Call Me by Your Name." However, Nike was like, "No, no, sir." Oh, and the other part is there are. I want to make sure I get this right. 60 cubic centimeters of red ink in a single drop of blood. I want to know what it. Whose blood was this? I just want to know because COVID is still a thing, and so is AIDS and HIV. However, yeah, all of this is in the shoe, and Nike has not or does not approve or authorize this company's customized Satan shoes. And so basically, long story short, Nike is seeing this as defamation. Also, a genuine Nike Air, and this is what Nike is saying, a genuine Nike Air Max 97 does not contain any of these customized features, which also notes that making changes to the midsole may pose a safety risk for consumers. And yet, despite these drastic alterations, the Satan shoes still prominently display the Nike swoosh logo both at the top of the tongue and along the side of the shoes. In furtherance of its request to capitalize on Nike's valuable reputation and customers' goodwill, Nike asserts that the company is using the Nike trademark and or confusingly similar marks in a manner that is likely to cause consumers and potential customers to believe that the Satan shoe are associated with Nike when they are not. So, for those who were wondering, Nike is like, we have nothing to do with this. We didn't sanction this. We were not cool with this. We are not okay with this. And honestly, we can get to the other side of why Lil Nas X and some of his tweets. But good for Nike. I'm glad that Nike is going after them. Because it speaks to this is a perfect time for my Christian self to say, hey, hell no. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I hope that Nike goes after them and I hope that they win. Because honestly, I understand you're mad. I understand you're upset. I even understand that you were hurt. And again, we won't even get into that tonight. But I understand you were hurt by church people. People at church have been hurt by church people. However, in you getting back at, I say us because I'm a believer, there are certain things you can't do. And one of the first things you should have done is hired a law team, law firm, somebody to make sure that this was okay. Now, I don't believe that this will touch Lil Nas X more than it will the actual company that made the shoes. However, there's a part of me that actually wishes that it does. Even if it's just a little, because you have to know, this is my perspective. You have to know there are so many people. There are so many people who listen to his music, like Old Town Road. like overnight. Right, Lisa. Right. Right. I mean, anybody that knows, and I understand there are different different sections of people who are homosexual, and I have nothing against you. Listen, do your thing. But the fact that you're doing this, and then we won't talk about the video, but what I am saying is this. I hope some of this trickles down to Lil Nas, to where he knows and he understands, bro. Like, there's just certain things you can't do. Oh, and this was the other point that I was making. It just dawned on me. You have to know, like, so many people, so many kids since Old Town Road are following him. The parents, okay, cool, whatever, y'all know, but how many kid followers does he has? Does he have? And so now they are seeing this. And I won't talk about the agenda. I won't do anything like that. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother episode. But if you are a believer, yes, Lisa, he went way off the deep end. Like the video, he twerking on Satan and slid down a pole to hell, and yeah. And honestly, the believer side of me is like, yo, like, he really does need Jesus, but he just needs somebody else to give that to him, because I believe where he came from, he was hurt. We not all like that. So Lil Nas, if you decide to watch this, hit me up. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out, bro. It's not too late. You know, you feel like you got to go to hell, but no, you don't have to. And I'm not intended to preach, but whatever. So, but anyways, y'all, that's my time. I appreciate y'all hanging out. Just know that I love y'all. Keep your eyes open. Do not allow things that are happening around you to affect your purpose and where you're headed to. Keep going, stay focused, and know that I love you, and we'll see you next week. Be the people. I'm Will, or Lauren Sanders. Peace.